How's it going, everybody? This is Boots with Snapkeep Arcade. I spent the past weekend at GP Vegas, one of Magic's biggest tournaments of the year. I had the opportunity to sit down with Chris Clay, principal game designer for Magic Arena. We talked about everything from redeemable codes and paper products, changes to the vault, and the likelihood of Brawl coming to Arena. I also got my hands on some beta keys for Arena, so stick around till the end of the video to find out how you can enter our giveaway. I started by asking Chris what the likelihood is of adding older sets to Arena. Maybe not all the way back to Mirrodin, but what about more recent sets like Battle for Zendikar block or Shadows over Innistrad block?
Right, so one of the cool things about the way that the games rules engine and the client talk to each other and just how we implement the cards is as we work forward, we are effectively working back. The more we work on future sets, the more mechanics we have working, the more the old sets work. A lot of it will come down to just the release of content and sort of the appropriate cadence, and some of it will be, as we go into open beta and beyond, what is the player base really looking for? And our first and foremost focus really is on standard, but there's nothing stopping us from going backwards except time and the ability of the community to soak up all the content, because there are a lot of cards going back. There's different target audiences as well. So for people who've been playing Magic a long time, it's going back and visiting an old friend. But if you're looking at it from the experience of somebody who's entering into Magic for the first time, and they're getting hit with thousands upon thousands of cards, there's a big learning curve, and that's something that we're trying to help people through. But in some ways, going back too quickly, even if we're able, isn't necessarily the best thing.
Snapkeep Arcade did a video recently speculating that the upcoming singleton format is paving the way for Brawl on Arena. Is that a reasonable assumption, and what challenges do the Arena team face when implementing commander designation rules?
Yeah, so that is a very reasonable assumption. Singleton is just easier for us than going all the way to Brawl. To get Brawl working in the client, we're really going to need to get the command zone in to both the GRE and then get the client interface hooked up for it. It's not an insurmountable ask. We've been watching it and how it's performing on Magic Online. R&D has been balancing it. It is one of those things that I need to get in and play. I've got 2 Brawl decks sitting on my desk at work, and Nicholas Wolfram keeps coming by. He's like, "Have you played yet?" And I'm like, I haven't played yet, I'm too busy. But it is somewhere I think we would like to go eventually, yeah.
Do you have plans to add Two-Headed Giant or other multiplayer formats to Arena? If so, do you have a rough ETA when they'll be added?
Yeah, so I believe I've said in the past on streams and whatnot that we don't plan on adding multiplayer in the near term. If we were going to add multiplayer, it's something that I would probably consider more as a standalone product than something integrated with Arena. A lot of that comes down to I don't have any firm idea at the moment how we would do Two-Headed Giant or multiplayer commander type format well in the client that we have. There are lots of ways that we could do it in a very compromised fashion and sort of just get something functional, but what that leaves us with is something that's functional but not necessarily good, and that comes at a very high cost, because when you're creating something that's sort of in that compromised state, because it's a really hard problem, 10,024 pixels wide by 768 pixels tall, it's not a lot of pixels to play with, and with 4 people playing, there's a ton of information, so you start making compromises with paging and switching views and switching cameras to sort of display all the data you need to do. And all of those compromises add a level of complexity into the code base that then just makes everything else more expensive. So you've gotten something that isn't quite the experience that people are looking for, that then makes the other experiences worse. When I think about the problem of Two-Headed Giant or multiplayer, that's where I start looking at future technologies like VR, because VR solves a lot of the space problem, because your head becomes a camera. You're not moving around in an environment, which is one of the biggest problems with VR and sort of motion sickness. Your head is just the camera. if we get time at one of our game jams, it's one of those things I would like to experiment with. But VR still isn't particularly mainstream either, so I don't know that that's a great solution.
Yeah. Obviously, you can't get into too many details, but is there anything you can tell us about upcoming changes to the vault?
So, we have been putting a lot of design effort and brain effort into what we're going to do with the vault and just the progress towards wildcards, because there's plenty of confusion in the player base just when they're going to get their next wildcard. The vault is kind of the one place where you have some surety of your progression towards it. You know, I need to open X many more packs, but you're doing math and it's confusing. So what I can say that we're trying to do is setting up an easier to understand deterministic path towards getting those wildcards, so that you're not going to the forums to read equations and tables to figure out when you can expect to complete a deck or get that next card you're looking for your deck. I think we have more work to do long-term on the 5th copy problem and what we're going to do there, because we fully acknowledge that right now, when you're close to completing a set, opening up packs for it just doesn't feel good. So it's trying to turn that into a feel-good moment as best we can.
Can you tell us more about any upcoming social features, such as adding and playing with friends? And can you give us a rough estimate on when those features will be added?
Yeah, so as we've said before, it is a goal of ours to get to the point where you've got friends lists. The primary reason for the friends list for me is the ability to go and challenge your friends or set up play spaces with your friends. Less concerned with features like chat, just because at this point in the industry you have so many various chat options, and you know, at this point I play with my friends mostly over voice anyway.
Yeah.
So getting the friends list in that ability to challenge your friends, you know, for people to you know, coordinate playtesting, whatever it is. It's one of those things that we really want internally, just because when you're trying to debug something, the ability to go in and play a specific person is really valuable. We've got some sort of very rough debugging tools that let us do that, but it's not a clean or elegant solution yet. We have some larger goals as an organization for Wizards in integrating the friends list not just for Arena, but for other products. So there's additional time that's going into that. I don't have an exact timeline yet, but it's going to be later this year at the earliest, I would say.
Cool.
And it could potentially push beyond that.
Once Arena is fully released, how do you see it changing not only the way Magic is played, but the community itself, events, and the game in general?
In my 2 years at Wizards, there's been lots of speculation about what the future of Magic looks like. Because you've got tabletop Magic, which leads to events like GP Vegas, which has been amazing. You've got Magic Online, which has been around for forever and has tons of people playing it. And then you've got Arena, and how does Arena fit into that mix? And you know, the real hope from the team was we would be able to set up an ecosystem where all of those products are working together and serving different portions of our player base. With Arena right now, I get really excited when I get to meet people who are like, hey, I haven't played Magic in 10 years, Arena's got me back into it. A lot of the work we have done to start with, you know, Best of One, it's to set up a place for people who don't necessarily have a ton of time but love Magic to go in and get to play Magic. Beyond that sort of high-level professional play, the ability with Arena to integrate some with the tabletop loop of you go to a sealed event. I really love the idea of you go to a sealed event, you get a key code in your sealed pack that lets you go play a sealed event on Arena. I really love the concept of Arena, you know, being in this loop with tabletop play where it's like, hey, go play it in real life and then go play it again digitally. Hopefully getting, you know, paper players into the digital space, and then taking people who have perhaps played Magic only digitally and getting them to their local store. I really like the potential that has, because a sealed event is something that the individual is likely going to go to. When you start looking at codes in packs, it becomes more and more unlikely that the person who opened the pack is the person that's redeeming the code.
Yeah.
But with, you know, a Friday night draft or with a sealed event, it is very likely the person who went and participated in that, and that creates a loop that makes me happy.
In your opinion, is Goblin Chain Whirler a fair card?
You know, that's one of those interesting design questions in that it really depends on the environment, because a card that can feel fair in one place can feel very unfair in another. And you know, with so many cards at one toughness, it can be a really, really powerful card. The thing that's interesting though is you know, we have all of our data on wildcard redemption, so we get to see which cards are getting redeemed by the community, and it gives us a really good picture of what players see the card's power level at. I mean, I guess you get some of that you know, through other means in paper, but this gives us a really direct look at what players are going for, because when they're redeeming a wild card, they can go for anything. And the Chain Whirler was not one of the most redeemed cards from Dominaria. In fact, it was right in line with the Steel League Champion, and I'm blanking on the white guy, 3 white.
Marshall?
Yeah, the Marshall. They were all pretty much toe-to-toe right up until the Pro Tour, and then all of a sudden, Chain Whirler redemptions go through the roof. So, you know, I would almost turn the question around. If it was an unfair card, why wasn't it initially sort of redeemed and like seen as such? Some of it is, you know, when people figure out a way to use it really effectively, then it can start to creep there. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really looking forward to, in the not too distant future, having open play. What the open play queue is going to be for me, and maybe we rebrand it between now and when it goes live, is a queue where we're going to be doing deck-based matchmaking.
Oh, cool.
And the thing that I'm excited about is we're using data from our players to basically arrive at the value of various cards to get a deck value. And anytime you can have a relatively simple system give you the output you want when you're running decks through it, it means it's probably going to be a pretty solid system. And because of the way we're using the data, it's self-correcting over time. So as something like Chain Whirler comes up, you know, Chain Whirler was already fairly played, but when it goes from, you know, the card that is playing some of the time to all of a sudden it's the new hotness, you know, that changes the valuation of the decks. So what we'll get there is, when you're playing your jank-tastic, you know, Goblin atrocity, you're going to be matched up more against other people who are in that plan of like trying crazy stuff out. And it doesn't guarantee necessarily a good match. I like the idea of being able to take a janky deck in and play other janky decks. Even if they wipe the floor with me, it feels much better than trying something and then, oh great, it's, you know, red deck wins.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to be really excited to see how that plays out.
Chris and I then talked about the prospect of Arena doing limited time events to draft sets like Beta or Cubes with cards on the reserved list.
Yeah, it's an exciting opportunity to sort of go delve into the past. That's something that Magic Online gets to do. Start looking into the past. If you're looking all the way back to like Alpha and Beta, if you're trying to introduce, you know, all, whatever the number is now, 18,000 cards, it's a lot of content, but you have the opportunity to do a special event where, you know, it's just one of those sets from the past. So let's do a special, you know, Alpha draft or Beta draft, or unlimited draft, whatever it is, it can create some really interesting experiences. And I know for me, the experiences that we're providing are a big part of what we're trying to set up. Getting things like the Singleton event in is important to me because it takes the cards that we already have and lets us use them in a different way.
Yeah.
And going into the past, doing something like a beta set draft or a modern queue lets us go get the flavor of those past experiences without necessarily having to do everything. But you look back in the past, and we've got one of the developers who's really a big Legacy player, and he'll come by and he'll be like, Legacy? And I'll be like, it's a lot of cards. And he's like, I just need 365 cards. Yeah, that's one of the fun parts about working on Arena with the team we have. You know, these are people who love Magic.
Yeah.
You know, we don't all love it in the same way. You know, I'm a big limited player. We've got constructed players. We've got modern players. We've got legacy players. So even as there are the voices externally being like, modern, you know, we've got those voices internally who are like, modern? We have a saying in the industry that you need to eat your own dog food, and that is you need to go in and play the game and experience it as the players are. That's why all of the developers, when you're going up against an orange name, they are in the economy with everybody else. You know, I've dropped money on the game so I can get in my binge drafting on the weekends. But, you know, as part of that sort of experience of playing the game, really early on in development, it's typically not fun. There are so many rough edges, and you get to, you know, the play day, and you're like, all right, guys, go get in the play day, and people are like, oh God, I don't want to play. Can I just keep working? And you know, I think the moment where I knew we were really on the right track was coming in on a Monday and seeing 3 different groups of developers, each talking about games they had played over the weekend.
Oh, cool.
And part of the reason that I got into games in general is I love stories, and not just the stories that the games are telling, but the stories that the games help the players create.
Yeah.
And with a game like Arena, because it's in a digital space, you don't have that incredibly social experience that you get from tabletop, being across from somebody, you know, being able to talk as you're playing through a game. And getting some of that secondary social through the game creating stories like, you wouldn't believe this draft deck I did, and it did all of these things, or you know, whatever the story is that the person is sharing. When you get a game to the point where people are actively sharing stories about it, when you go on YouTube and it's like, look at this clip of this insane thing that happened, the story sharing part is a really important milestone. And once we hit that, I was like, all right. And then the other part that's really fun as a developer is, because I'm not in R&D and I'm not developing the content, it's one of the first time in games where I get to love playing the game, and I go home at night and I play on the weekends, and you know, I'm used to creating the characters, creating all their skills, you know, creating loot tables, and just knowing how everything works. And having that opportunity to, you know, work on a game that is really challenging, because, oh my God, Magic is challenging to develop for, because you've got all of these different cards that just have these crazy interactions. But you get to work on these really fun, hard problems, and then still go home and enjoy the content. So, you know, as much as the player base is asking for things, you know, we are the players who make the game. So, you know, you've got people in the office, you know, talking to each other. It's like, hey, it would really be great if we could get X working better, or can you do Y? You know, we're not just pushing things forward because we want a feature list. We want it to be better because we want to go play it.
Yeah.
I know a key moment for my play was, you know, it was a patch that some people weren't necessarily happy with, because we boiled down the wins to the first 4 wins, you know, up the quest awards. And for somebody like me who's working long hours, it was really nice to come home, be able to play a couple quick matches, make my progress, and then be done. So I got into the cycle of just like, all right, let's make sure I'm hopping on a little bit. Whereas in some of the earlier runs, it's like, there's no way I'm getting out to 9 wins. It's just not going to happen. I think we're in a much better sort of middle ground now with some opportunity to go out without sort of the feeling of, oh my gosh, I've got to go win 15 times each day. That's something we're going to continue to evolve with time.
Thank you so much to Chris Clay for taking the time to answer our questions this weekend at GP Vegas. I was also able to pick up 3 beta codes, which I'm giving away on this channel. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to my channel or leave a comment below. I'll be giving 2 keys away to 2 new subscribers and 1 key to someone in the comment section. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to Snapkeep Arcade and hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. This has been Boots with Snapkeep Arcade. Thanks for watching.